Hello, good evening, everybody. How are you all doing today? Today is now October the 17th. It is a Wednesday, and I am currently located in Brasov, Romania. So I'm having a wonderful time so far, but I'm going to keep this technical analysis incredibly professional. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want to waste your guys' time, and I respect you highly. So we're going to approach this from the perspective of a few different topics, okay? The first topic we're going to talk about is how liquidations work, okay? Liquidations are incredibly important to understand because we always have to think about it from the perspective of the bulls that are fighting one side to push up the price, and the bears are actually pushing it down to drive down the price the other way. And because there's this type of tension, they actually sometimes, actually the majority of times, what they'll do is they will rely on each other to liquidate one another. Because once liquidation works, it's actually how fuel is added to the fire. Another thing that we're going to talk about in this video is how longs and shorts work against and for each other as well. So I always follow a chart called the USD Longs versus the USD Shorts for Bitcoin in general. And we're also going to take a look at this from the perspective of a short time frame. When I say short, I'm talking about anywhere between the 4-hour to the daily chart. And we're also going to talk about it from the perspective of a weekly and a monthly chart as well. So we're going to get into 4 topics today, and I've been thinking about it all day, and I owe it to my followers, whom I highly respect, to give you guys my thoughts as well. So always keep in mind, first of all, my accuracy rate, which is pretty darn good, right? But always take every technical analysis from the perspective of taking it with a grain of salt. And the reason you want to do that is simple, is because you don't ever want to rely on someone to make the decisions for you. Always remember that it is your money, and with it being your money, you have to be responsible for your own decisions, and you also have to hold yourself accountable as well. So how's the view? It's not bad, right, guys? All right, I hope that you're enjoying the view from my hotel room. It's a beautiful 5-star hotel that I'm absolutely loving, although I might actually need to check out a little bit early to head back for personal reasons. So let's take a look at Bitcoin and how we're doing, okay? So first of all, what you guys are probably all wondering, first of all, is what do I think of Tether, right? I want to be very clear that we should never keep any funds on any exchange without understanding that we are accepting the risk, right? So because I keep money on exchange and you do as well, please always understand that there's a risk of losing your money. So please never play or keep on exchange more money than you're actually willing to lose. Please remember that this is the absolute wild, wild west in crypto right now. And with it being the wild west, there needs to be a lot more regulation. And like I always say, which is going to relate to the price action of Bitcoin and how I personally perceive it right now. The reason why I don't think, to be very clear, first of all, why Bitcoin is not going to rally to something ridiculous like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 this year is because this is the year of regulation. But please understand that with regulation coming into play, it's actually going to set the way rather, and pave the way to create higher highs in the future and for investors to actually start mainstream adopting it as well. Right now, there's not really certainty in the market, right? Because there are so many scams, ICOs especially, right? And mainstream adoption is very far away, in my personal opinion. There's not really a lot of new money coming into the market. And as a smart investor, you would want to invest in something where there's a lot of regulation. And with it being more regulated and safer for institutions especially, there will be more money coming into the market. But we're not quite there yet as well. Also, if you think of it from the perspective of, for example, Ripple, right? I think that Ripple will actually be one of the first coins that will penetrate mainstream media, and they'll do it in a very positive way, especially with the impact that they're having going head to head against Swift, right? Swift is mainly the current way where they are transferring money amongst banks. It's very slow. Takes a lot of time, as you guys know. It costs a lot as well. Not only that, the paperwork is arduous, and there's a lot of things that might get misplaced along the way. It's a very old system that's been outdated. And of course, as we all know, Ripple has been doing things like holding a lot of conferences, right? Swell conferences. Like last year, for example, in I think it was October, yeah, October 23, 24, 25, something around there. They held it directly next to the Cybos conference, which is by Swift, right? In the exact same city as well, in Toronto, Canada. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to notify the public, even though it's in their very early stages, just as an example to give you guys it, they're trying to say right now to the market in general and to big banks that, hey, Swift, yes, you guys are using them, but they will not be the only one, and we will be direct competition. Think of two words, okay? A monopoly, right? You think of the game Monopoly, then you win it by having the majority of all the hotels in the property, right? And in business, it basically refers to having a big piece of the pie in that specific business, right? And for example, that's what Swift does right now. But an oligopoly refers to several different companies having a large chunk of the pie as well. And that's what Swift and Ripple will eventually end up doing, right? I don't believe that Ripple will let, for example, Swift be the dominant player in the market only, and they will create an oligopoly, and there's going to be a lot more fierce competition in the market. But think of how far down the road that is. I'm just trying to give you guys an example. Don't take it the wrong way whatsoever, okay? I'm not trying to tell you guys to absolutely buy it right now. I'm giving you an example of far down the road of how mainstream adoption can actually penetrate mainstream, right? And you think of Bitcoin as well, like I always say that you guys hear me say, it's not like Donald Trump is saying right now, hey guys, buy this right now, okay? You guys have to buy Bitcoin because I approve of it, right? No government, Putin is not saying, for example, in Russia, buy Bitcoin, right? It's not like it's not being widely accepted by countries right now, right? Well, but the good news, in my opinion, was that because it was at that, what was it, G20 summit, that it was posed as a national security threat, right, to fiat banks or to fiat monetary systems, basically. That's actually a positive sign, in my opinion, that it's actually at least being acknowledged in the final financial markets right now, despite it being such a small fraction of the money in the world. So we think of 2017 early, right, where it wasn't really posed as any sort of threat or problem. And then you think of the rally from $700 to literally 19,000 something, right? Of course, it's going to gain mainstream attention. And that was just 2017 alone. And now 2018 is the year of consolidation. We always have to remember that every time you run very fast, there's always going to be a big break in between. So I just want to give you guys my quick thoughts on Bitcoin and how I actually see it progressing in the future. And I want to let you guys know that I am incredibly bullish on Bitcoin for the long term. I really do believe that Bitcoin will usurp traditional fiat one day. Now, I don't mean to be rude in any way. I know a lot of my viewers are English speaking, right? But a lot of you guys also may not speak English because you're from different countries, right? Usurp basically means to take over, okay? I don't mean that in a rude way, so please don't take it if I explained it, okay? It basically means to take over in a very hostile way. And if it's taking it over in a hostile way, well, you guys also have to think of how Bitcoin was actually created, right? So for the people that don't know, Bitcoin was actually created from the ashes. It was basically created from right after the world economic crisis in 2008. And after that massive crash, because our government, our banks, all took advantage of very innocent people in the world. We all know what happened, and we won't get into it. Very corrupt level of governments were responsible for it. And we all know how many people were actually arrested and how many big banks were actually held accountable. 2 people arrested, I think, that actually got away with it. 0 banks actually held accountable. And we all know who had to bail out the world, basically, right? A lot of taxpayers, right? And of course, it wasn't fair to normal people like you and I. And from the ashes rose a phoenix. And that was actually Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin rose from the ashes. And you guys have to admit, like, it gives me shivers to actually think about how such an anonymous person in the world had the audacity and the brains and the courage to actually create something like Bitcoin, and how inspired he was. Like, think of the hero that was born, guys, okay? Someone was so fed up with how governments worked, how the government could print an unlimited amount of currency, how no one was held accountable, how big banks and their greed actually corrupted the world, and how normal civilians, normal people had to bail out the world. And it was an absolute necessity. Otherwise, we would have had a global economic collapse, right? It was really, really sad to think about it. But think of the brave guy who actually created Bitcoin, and he gave birth to pave the way for how Bitcoin and how blockchain technology can revolutionize the world. So in a way, guys, you guys know why I trade. I trade it for the money. I want you guys to be successful for the money. But at the same time, I really do respect the fundamental values of Bitcoin a lot. And you guys don't hear me talk about it, but I'm incredibly passionate about it as well, okay? And I want you guys to know firmly that I believe with 1000% certainty that Bitcoin will reach one day $250,000. And it is going to blow your mind when it reaches it. I bet you guys never thought for 1 second last year that Bitcoin would go from $700 all the way up to almost $20,000. If anybody said for one moment that you thought that Bitcoin was actually going to reach near $20,000 from $700, you would be lying, and you know it as well. Bitcoin has made more millionaires than any other sector in the world, okay? So I need you guys to really understand with 100% certainty that I firmly believe that Bitcoin has an opportunity to absolutely revolutionize how fiat is viewed. What is the difference between Bitcoin that's in your wallet that can be used as a digital currency and your Visa? Nothing. There will be some system in the world that will be much faster for transactions. Let's face it right now. As much as Bitcoin is a great way, okay, it's a great system to use, it's not convenient, guys, going to McDonald's and trying to pay with Bitcoin. We're thinking of paying incredibly high fees, right, to have a higher transaction and processing time. So anyways, I just want you guys to know firmly that I really do believe that Bitcoin will absolutely change the world one day, and that over time, we just got to be very, very patient with it, right? So we have to first of all establish what kind of trader we are. Are we actually a scalper like me who capitalizes? Keep in mind the word capitalizes, capitalism, which is focusing on money and profit, right? I go for the 1 to the 3 to the 5% swings on a very short time frame. Are you a scalper that's going to work on a higher time, or sorry, a swing trader that's going to work on a higher time frame because you simply don't have the time to manage the time? You might have a family, you might have, for example, school, right? You might have a job that's holding you down, and you can't simply scalp like me, where you're playing on lower time frames. Are you a longer term investor as well? Perhaps you are, who's playing on higher moving averages, for example, on a weekly and a monthly chart as well. So anyways, to get the fundamental arguments out of the way, now let's talk about Bitcoin, and let's also talk about how we ended up getting this really long bull wick. So before we do that, let's first of all establish some of the basics that we should always establish, okay? When you guys are first trading out, make sure that you are absolutely doing this, okay? Do this right here. Draw your trend lines, no ifs, no freaking ands, no freaking buts. You guys draw your trend line, and there's no absolutely perfect way to do it. If one guy says to you that there's a better way to draw a trend line than another way, it's called absolute bull, okay? Sometimes it's not as obvious as you might think. This is the way I personally would generally draw it. Some people would draw it like that because they would consider some of it bull trap regions, right? A bull trap is basically this, okay? Let me show you guys for the people that don't know. I'm going to be incredibly detailed in my videos from now on because my main goal is to educate the public, okay? A bull trap is when we basically have a candle that extends past it right here, right? We get a candle like that, that's green, that goes a little bit higher than the support, or sorry, than the resistance, and then the next candle, okay, ends up falling right back in, okay? Right back in like that, okay? Now, I want to show you guys the significance of this candle. So let me ask you guys rhetorically, how many candles, okay, how many 1 hour candles make up a 2 hour candle? Tell me. All right, well, if you guys answer 2 1 hour candles, then you guys absolutely nailed it, okay? Now, let me show you this as well. Okay, let's just say we did this. So let's say we drew this right here, okay? Sorry, I don't even have a mouse, believe it or not, guys. I gotta go buy a mouse. Come on. There we go. Nope, not that either. I don't want to draw it again because it takes a lot of time. Okay, anyways, I'm going to draw it again. So anyways, 2 1 hour candles make up a 2 hour candle, right? So if you actually combine these 2 candles together, you know what you're actually going to get? Let me show you guys, okay? If you actually combine 2 candles like that together, this is what you're actually going to get, okay? I apologize for the delay here. It's not that great using just a mouse sometimes or sort of trackpad when you want to be accurate. So if you actually have 2 candles like that side by side, what you'll actually get is just a wick, okay? Because you think of it like this, okay? You think of it from the perspective of it goes up like that, right? It goes up and then it goes down. And because it goes up and it goes down, if you actually see it only from the perspective of a higher time frame, all that you guys are going to see actually is a wick, just like that. Okay, you're only going to see a wick with a very small body in the bottom or something like that. So that is, first of all, the mechanics of how wicks are formed. It goes on an uptrend. So it goes really high up and then it actually ends up downtrending, okay? So please always remember that. So that is the significance of this wick. So the first topic that we're actually going to get into is how liquidations work, okay? So why do you guys think a liquidation works, okay? You can pause this video and think about it, okay? Why do you guys think that there's a gigantic long wick here, okay? We're gonna take a look at this day and we're gonna actually take a look at, because I've actually prepared the video for you guys already. So let's take a look at this right here. This happened right there on October 15 at 2 in the morning. So I've actually taken the liberty to prepare this ahead of time for you guys already, okay? October 15, these 3 tables right here are USD longs, okay? Versus USD shorts right here. You guys take a look at this, okay? Now, let me tell you what is actually going on, okay? So the way that, first of all, let's establish what a short position is, which a lot of people don't know, okay? A short position is where you are betting against the market. So you're basically betting against the market, saying that it's going to go down. So what you do for the exchanges that actually allow you to short is this. Let's say you believe the market is going to go down. So you enter a short position. So what that means is, let's say you borrowed 1 Bitcoin, you shorted 1 Bitcoin. What that means is you're borrowing 1 Bitcoin from the actual exchange because you're selling it cheap. Let's say you're selling it at, say, $10,000. And then because you're selling it at $10,000, the exchange, like Bitfinex, for example, says, hey, you owe me 1 Bitcoin back no matter what. We don't care what price it is. You just owe me 1 Bitcoin back. So then let's say you are expecting it to get to $9,000, okay? Because you're expecting it to get to $9,000 and it does get there, hey, you bought your 1 Bitcoin back. And because you bought your 1 Bitcoin back, you now at $9,000, you give the 1 Bitcoin back to them, to the exchange, right? And this is all an automatic process. Well, what's the difference between you originally selling it at $10,000 and actually buying it back at $9,000? Well, that's $1,000, which means because you shorted it and you originally sold it at $10,000, but you paid it back at $9,000, that's a $1,000 savings on per Bitcoin. So you actually get to profit the $1,000 difference. That's what it means. But the point of this is that you need to buy to close your short position. And this is really important to understand because this is a high level concept. We're not just talking about shorting now, okay? We're talking about liquidation. We're talking about the tension between the bulls and the bears, liquidating each other to use each other as force that's going to drive the market one way. Let's say right here, as an example, you see a lot of people enter a short position, okay? Right here, okay? Right here, I'm going to show you guys this very clearly. Look right here, we see it just kind of driving upwards, right? Because everyone thought it was actually going to drop down right here. You see this? Where my mouse is, everybody thought that it was going to drop down. So people actually started entering more shorts, okay? They started entering more shorts and it went from literally 35,000 shorts to up here to about 37,000 shorts. And people were racking it up. And on the RSI, for example, on the 4-hour chart, you see the RSI of shorts racking up to 82, right? So because everybody thought that Bitcoin was going to go down and shorts were being entered, keep in mind that this is a very competitive strategy game. Well, guys, the bulls, the people who have hundreds, tens, 50s of millions of dollars, not people like you and I who play with $10,000, $100,000. People with tens, 50s, hundreds of millions of dollars, they all saw what I am just talking about right now, which is a lot of people enter short positions. So what this generally means, and we're not talking about Tether aside, okay? Like Tether aside, guys, we're not talking about Tether, okay? So these people with a lot of money decided to say, okay, we know that people are entered in a short position. And the way that they close their short position is by buying. So what these bulls who have a lot of money did was they ended up buying and buying and buying and buying and buying more Bitcoin to make the price go up, right? And then the people who are in a short position, they get very nervous, guys. So what they do is they have to close their position. And because they have to close their position, what do? They have to buy, right? They have to buy. So the bulls with a lot of money who wanted to drive up the market are buying it up. And then the bears who actually were betting that it was going to go down, what they now do is they actually start buying as well because the bulls are making them nervous since the price is going up. And then bam, stop losses are hit and the bears all of a sudden turn into bulls because they have to buy to close their position, which, think about it, it adds fuel to the fire. Not only that, the way that a liquidation works is where you do not have enough equity maintained to actually have a decent liquidation price, right? Did you guys know on Bitfinex, if you play your entire bankroll, that the market only needs to move about 10% for you guys to actually get stopped out and hit margin call. It's actually not much at all if you actually do the math. So the way that liquidations work in general and flash crashes is that, let's say you're shorting, and you actually bet your entire account and it's hitting your liquidation price, right? Well, chances are a lot of people are actually hitting the liquidation prices at the same time. So what this does is it puts you guys in a big lineup. Let's say there's 1,000 people who hit their liquidation price roughly at the same time. You guys are now all in a queue. Think of it as being in a supermarket, okay? You're all in a supermarket. And you all need to buy the exact same thing, but as you get further in, you run out of supplies. So basically what happens is, so you're chasing it, right? You're chasing to close your shorts because you need to buy. But as you get higher in price, there's obviously a lot less liquidity. So because there's a lot less liquidity, what that means is you're now chasing it to go up, right? So the price keeps going higher and higher from a short perspective. And this is exactly how these massive liquidations actually end up working, right? People are all getting liquidated at the same time. and then now it's spiking up the price because there's a big lineup and there's actually not much liquidity. So it can cause these gigantic ripples that actually go up. And then what ends up happening, guys, we end up getting entirely bull trapped, right? So this is my theory of what's actually happening. And I'd say my theory is pretty darn sound, okay, guys? And the way that I'm seeing this is very, very bearish right now, okay? I'm going to go to a lower time frame now. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I see this right here as bearish, okay? The reason why I see this as bearish is because, guys, first of all, compare this peak, and this peak. What do you guys notice? Lower lows each time, okay? Lower lows. Roughly the same peak, roughly the same peak, roughly the same low. But it's descending every time. If I had to draw this out very simply, unfortunately, the way that I see this, guys, is a very bearish pattern. Okay, I see this as a descending triangle that's simply going to break down. Where is the next mode of support? The next place of support is very simple. Well, this is actually a really long video, but I owe it to you guys to make a really long video because I appreciate you guys a lot. I personally believe, guys, that we're going to easily trend within about 3 days, anywhere between 64.50. Okay, let's actually get to a higher time frame so you guys can easily see it as well, okay? My next range of support is going to be in this region, right around there, honestly. Right now we're trending in the higher region, but we're easily going to get to a lower region soon, in my opinion, like 6,500 to 6,600 range. If that does not happen, guys, okay, if that does not happen, here, mark my words, right, where this ends up breaking upwards, we're simply going to hit the upper channel of the resistance, right? Let's go to a log scale here and get this on properly again, right? We're simply going to go back up to maybe right around here, 6,900, and then we'll simply just shoot down, in my opinion, on a very short time frame. So one of two things is going to happen, guys. Like, look at the candles right now that are forming, right? This went up really high, and then it's coming down, and we're getting support candles. That's how we can see it. Or we can see it from the other perspective right now, where we're going up, right? Or sorry, we're going upwards, right? And then we come down there, and now we just can't go up anymore. And we're getting a series of a doji candle and a bear spinning top. But you guys got to remember one thing that's very clear, okay? One thing that's very clear is that the volume is slowly waning off right now already. And this looks to me more bearish than bullish, in my personal opinion. We take a look at the 5-hour histogram, and man, oh man, that looks like it's just about to come down. The 4 hours is already hitting to the negative side. So if the histogram and the MACD stays on the positive side, great. Then we'll actually have a chance to hit maybe 69 to 7K region. But my opinion to you guys is to draw your supports like this, see how the volume picks up, and the number one confirmation to go long that I would play if I had to, but you guys know that I scalp, but I've still got your backs. The way that I personally would do it is like this. I would, first of all, step number one, wait to see if it breaks outside of this triangle, up or down. If it does go up, right, before you enter it, you would want to find confluent reasons to enter a trade. And the number one confluent reason, in my opinion, first of all, is price action. Price action to see if we're getting walls of green, if we're getting guys creating leverage walls to spoof and drive up the price, right? And then your stop loss would simply be around here. You guys can go easily for a 4% gain perhaps on an aggressive level, maybe 69 to 7K on a more conservative level for 2 to 5%, or sorry, 2 to 4%, right? And of course, in my personal opinion, for a day trader, easy, guys. The perspective of a day trader, if this breaks down here, you're simply going to short it, right? And it depends on really your position and what kind of risk you're willing to allocate as well. In my opinion, I'd probably end up risking above the triangle in case there's a throw over or simply a bear trap coming down, okay? Now, the way that I would risk it is I'd probably end up targeting 6,500 first, 6,600 around those ranges, right? Depending on the price action, and then I would ladder my profits accordingly. But either way, guys, I'm not going to do an Elliott wave because it just takes too much time and not everybody understands Elliott wave. But trust me, guys, after my course comes out, you guys are going to see tons of Elliott wave. And I really hope that you guys are paying attention and keeping up to me, because you guys all know by now that my TA can be very detailed a lot of the times. Okay, so let's go back to a log scale. Would you guys agree with me right now with 100% certainty, if I do take a look at this on a high time frame, on a weekly, for example, that guys, this is ugly, okay? You guys might see this right here as an inverted hammer. Let me show you, you guys, if you guys know what an inverted hammer is. Inverted hammer, okay? And inverted hammer is like that on a downtrend. Now, you guys might be mistaking this for an inverted hammer right here, but no, that's not the way that I see it. The way that I see it is the bulls simply attempted to break it back above the 55 moving average, where the last time it was above it was in July. The bulls tried really hard to break above it, but what ended up happening was the bears just completely rejected them and pushed it all the way down, right? Sorry, give me a second, guys. Okay, anyways, sorry about that. I'm a little bit distracted tonight, actually. One of the main reasons I'm doing this is for you guys, right? But another main reason, to be quite personal with you, is because I might need to go back to France really early, because something, yeah, it's just I need to be in France for somebody right now. Just put it that way. I don't like to divulge too much personal information about my personal life anymore, if you guys have noticed, when it comes to really personal things. But I might just need to go back there just to be there for my girl. Something happened on her side of the family, so that's kind of it. So I might actually leave tomorrow morning. I haven't really decided yet. Anyways, guys, so yeah, the way that I see this is the bulls tried to push it up above the 55 EMA, and then they actually just simply got rejected and the bears took over. And now we trend again below the 55 EMA. Simple as that, right? And there's no doubt with 100% certainty, guys, that we see this as a descending triangle, right? You guys see this as a descent. Let me draw it out for you if you guys don't agree with me. It's really difficult to disagree with this, actually, right? So the descending triangle would simply just look like that, right? That's a descending triangle. Simple as that. Now we take a look at an RSI analysis, right? And we see that, you know, it's very difficult to see what's going on. It looks like it might curve up. It might just fly up, right? But the histogram has been so neutral on the weekly since like July that we really don't know what's going to happen. But guys, this is a descending triangle. And according to charts, we break down after that, right? Not only that, this right here is inside candles. They're starting to form with small little wicks. If you guys look at it on the monthly chart as well, guys, the histogram needs to tick upwards. It needs to go up like this, right? It needs to, you know, I'm just drawing really loosely, but it needs to come down like that. It needs to go up if we want to. As far as we know, since basically December, you know, it was going down and down and down and down and down. There needs to be a clear trend, okay? This right here is called a parabolic move up, where it's moving to the graph of y is equal to e to the x, right? E to the x, like, you know, the exponent. That is basically a parabolic graph when they refer to that. This right here was a parabolic graph going upwards, right? We would love to get a parabolic graph for it to go upwards, but as it stands, the way that I'm seeing this is I'm seeing a decline in volume, okay? I'm seeing a massive decline in volume. Last month was really low. This month, we're already in for September 17, and we're incredibly low as well. So yeah, so other than that, guys, I just see crazy volume declining, and I cannot help but be incredibly bearish for the longer term still. And I'm talking about for the next 3-4 months. I'm not talking about it going up next week or going up next day. I'm talking about factoring in the fundamental news of how there's no mainstream adoption quite yet, factoring in regulation, factoring in how there's no new money coming into the market quite yet as well, and just factor in the fact that the sheer will is what's driving up the market right now, and the bulls and the bears playing against each other to liquidate each other. So as it stands, guys, I'm not really giving you a specific target. I'm more so giving you my general thoughts of where I stand in the market right now, which is fairly bearish overall for the long term. And even for the short term, as in the next week, I feel fairly bearish as well. And you guys need to understand why I personally scalp. I scalp simply because money. I want to capitalize on the profit for the very short time frame. And 1%, 2%, 3% a day can really add up for the long term. So anyways, I hope that this has really helped you guys in one way or another. I've actually done this completely uncut in the past 35 minutes. It's been a very long time since I've actually made a technical analysis video, but like I mentioned, we were going to cover some of the main topics of liquidations, right? USD long versus USD shorts, short time frame predictions, and just general analysis, and also long-term analysis as well. So I hope that this has helped you guys out in one way or another, and I truly appreciate your love and your support. If you guys love these videos that I'm making, please make sure to give me a thumbs up just to show the respect and the love. And maybe you guys can also share it and like it as well, right? And if you guys absolutely love it, make sure you guys are following me on Twitter, on YouTube. Make sure you guys are subscribing to me. Follow me on Twitter as well. And also I have an Instagram where my goal is just to inspire a healthy lifestyle and just to show you guys some of my travels. So have yourselves a great day. This time might have been the very first time in a long time where I've actually kept it on point, or not on point, but on topic for more than 99% of the time. I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and thank you very much for all the love and the support that you guys have given me. Good night now. Bye.